All zero intervention drives today. Um, it did kind of roll some stop signs in a private area off the street. So it was like in the Terranea Resort. They have these stop signs. So some of them it stopped to zero. Some of them it only went down to like six or something. So that was kind of interesting. They may have some work to do on making sure it doesn't roll stop signs. Although all the real stop signs, it seems to handle it really well. But maybe on these kind of like not real stop signs, just part of the resort, and it doesn't look like a regular stop sign. Maybe, that's why it was rolling it or whatever. But other than that, no interventions, no disengagements. I had about three different drives. I'm going to upload them shortly. So FSD 12 is trending well. We're expecting another build and release to early access testers pretty soon, hopefully this weekend or next weekend. We, did see some testers outside Chuck's house, so they are testing his unprotected left and really gearing up to send it out to all the early access testers. And if things look good from there, then it'll continue going wide.
Do you expect the beta label to be removed this year?
Um, I don't really know, to be honest, or care that much. What I care about is really, how often I can have a intervention free drive. But they may remove the beta label or they may not. I really have no clue about what the threshold is and where they are on that. I mean, they can kind of just take it off anytime. But yeah, I'm less concerned about the label and more interested in the actual performance.
Are you seeing an increase in time between nags?
No. I'm seeing more frequent nags because of being in LA driving at higher speeds, but they said that they had turned the nags up to 11 because this is an early build and they would be scaling that back later when they called me on the phone.
If you could direct the AI team to work on one issue for you, what would you have them work on next?
Well, um fixing that one truck speed limit sign issue that's bothering me in this area, where it sometimes reads the truck speed limit sign. Although the version 12 handles it a lot better. The speed limit detector picked it up as 25 for the truck speed limit, but then FSD drove to like 38. So it didn't slow down all the way to 25. It still tried to go a somewhat reasonable speed, which was kind of nice. You don't have that harsh braking. So I honestly wouldn't really tell them anything. Like, clearly, they're doing way better than anything I could think of. And this approach is really sort of yielding broad based improvements on a number of categories just by continuing to train it on a larger and larger data set. So, I mean, I have no notes for them. Clearly, they're much smarter than me in terms of what they're putting out here. So, I just can't wait for everyone to try it. Like, I think it's going to be so fun on X. Just giving AI driver his first ride, he was like, "Oh my god." And giving my dad his first ride, he was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe some of these moves it's making." And everyone, I think, is probably going to have that reaction too. I mean, I don't want to overhype it and then people get mad at me and they're like, "Ah, I still had a takeover." Like, you probably still will have some takeovers, at least at first, but it's going to be a noticeable improvement right away, and your wife is going to be happy. They're not going to get as mad at you for running it. It's less harsh, less uncomfortable. It's you know it's good enough to really be called a 1.0, really. And yeah, I think people are really going to like it. So it's going to roll out this quarter. They've been working on it since December 2022. Everybody's been saying, FSD, they're never going to solve it, it's not getting better, and they haven't seen what they've actually been doing behind the scenes here. So it's going to be a fun moment seeing everyone's reactions on X, and I think it's really going to change sentiment. All Tesla has to do is, well, for rates need to come down, but that's kind of out of their control. The one thing they can control though is if they just show growth in FST, then the market will start to get excited. Because right now it's okay, you're in this sort of high inventory environment, there's a price war going on. Where does the earnings growth come from in that environment? I don't see it. And this can be the answer. Okay, here. This is where the earnings growth is going to come from. And if you can actually show that that's materializing, not kind of wave in the sky and say, one day robo taxis are going to be here, but actually say, we saw growth of 300% year over year, then you can start to make a model out of that and people start to get excited. I think like why I'm buying some more Tesla here, and I'm not sure it's necessarily bottomed. It could continue to go down from here, but I see, probably around like the 120 level is probably the bottom or as low as it can go. Around that level, they start to be valued at 20 times trailing earnings when you really look at the growth trajectory of this company that's made some of the best-selling electric vehicle products in the world, and it's a little bit silly for them to be valued at that level, right? I think everybody, especially if you look at the AI side, optimists, there's way more growth in the company's future. So in terms of sort of the risk reward, I say, okay, maybe, and it kind of feels like it's bottoming a little bit, but who knows? Maybe in a worst case scenario, it goes down from, I don't know, 180 to 120 or something like that. But it starts to just look extremely cheap there. And then on the other hand, I kind of remember what happened in December 22 when it bottomed around like 113 or 106 or something. And I bought a large number of shares kind of right at the bottom there. I think it was like 112 or something like that. And then over 2023, the shares went up like 100% or so. So people who actually bought shares at that price did very well. And if you bought shares at any other point, you probably didn't do so well. But if you timed it right, you were lucky and sort of found that moment, then you did very well. So I'm thinking there's a chance, right? There's a chance it could go down further, but there's also a chance it could double or more quite easily, I think. And I think really you have these new products, you have rates coming down in the back half of this year. Everything we've seen with rates going up will play out in reverse. The financing will get cheaper, more money will be driven into equities. So when this stock kind of moves, I think it moves pretty sharply upwards. And as people start to see FSD 12, they start to try it on their cars. They start to believe in this. You see all these other stocks just being bid up to the moon on AI hype. And here's an actual AI business that's actually producing profits. I think this is potentially a really underappreciated story. So just sort of looking at the risk reward on that, that's kind of why I've been buying some more shares. And my dad came up to me, he's like, "Hey, look at these Tesla prices. We should like buy some more Tesla shares." And I was like, let's see if it's kind of bottom, but I think I'm going to tell him, let's go for it. And, it may not go up. I may lose some money. It may go down by 50% or whatever, again, for all I know. But I'm kind of at peace with it. I want to build up a position. I want to be able to vote and vote my shares, hopefully help sort out Musk compensation plan and all that stuff. So hopefully there's some people out there who, don't blow yourself up, don't do anything stupid where you're going to be upset, but who can hold this company for the long term. I think it's going to continue to do really well. And I also want to say this is kind of like an unpopular thing to say in this day and age, um, with the sentiment the way it is, but I trust Elon and I trust his judgment and his marketing for Tesla. I don't think that he wants to destroy Tesla, contrary to what some people say. Oh my God, he doesn't care. He's just tweeting all this political stuff and he's going to destroy Tesla. I don't think he's going to destroy Tesla. I think it's a key part of his wealth. He sees Tesla as really giving him the ability to actually go to Mars, which obviously he really wants to do. It's his whole thing. So I don't think he's going to blow up the value of Tesla. I trust him. Um, and he said, I've talked to him a little bit. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he says he's not going to let us down. Maybe he will. Success isn't guaranteed, but I trust him, and I think this what he's doing with Twitter is a little bit unusual. It makes me kind of uncomfortable at times. It's kind of like, I've been conditioned to see some of these things as like, oh, this is like bad or whatever. This is something you don't say. But this guy's kind of a marketing genius, as I mentioned. Electric vehicles were not something anybody wanted, and he made the entire industry switch to electric. He built this product that was so compelling. He's getting the media to write about him all the time. I something that I just think doesn't get said enough is that he's actually smarter than me and most other people. And that's actually how he became the richest person in the world. And maybe he's completely lost his mind, but maybe he actually hasn't. And I think there is a lot of value in just, first of all, with X, we live in a democracy. So this is the most powerful country in the world. We have more economic resources than any other country in the world. We have the largest GDP. And this country is governed by democracy. It's one of the reasons why we have such great rule of law and why we're so powerful is because we don't have these rulers who can make mistakes. We can elect somebody. So, to the extent that you can actually influence the perception of the public, that you have control over it rather than going through the media, this is incredibly powerful. You can steer the might of the entire country in the direction that you see fit. And this is a guy who's meeting with world leaders, who's talking to people, who, a lot of the people on the right now love him. I mean, the left decided to pick a fight with him. They said, "You're too rich. We're going to tax you. We're going to put a wealth tax, and you're going to have to sell Tesla. You are the villain." And he said, "All right, look, if that's the way it's going to be, then I'm going to kick you out of office. And I can do that." And if he does that, and you may say, "Oh, I hate him because I hate the Republicans and I like Democrats." But if he can do that, we're not going to have this problem anymore of people trying to mess with him, of people trying to mess with Tesla, slow down robo taxis, anything like that. This is potentially incredibly important. And when you look at Republicans versus Democrats, it's very striking when you look at polling. Democrats are buying EVs, Republicans are not buying EVs. They're saying, we would never buy an EV. I would not consider an EV. So this is half the country, okay? Half the country. And you hear all these people talking about advertising. How many of them are saying, hey, we need to convince Republicans? I mean, we do need to convince Republicans, but they're not really thinking about that. They're not really saying, hey, okay, maybe we should actually be trying to appeal to Republicans. So, maybe this is actually a terrible strategy. It's a little bit risky. Maybe it ends up blowing up in his face, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it actually works and the TAM for EVs actually expands. And they end up catering to a whole new demographic while there's a huge fight for these EV buyers in California among the other brands. They're branching off in a whole different direction, selling Cybertrucks into the middle of the country. And you look at Ford. They said our margin on our gas car business is 3%. On our EV business, it's negative 98%. It's 12% for the fleet sales. These city, state, local governments, corporations, they're buying all these trucks and vans. So there's this really huge market there. Um, I think Tesla hasn't even really sort of tapped into that. But for these fleet buyers, it's huge just because of the savings of electric. So maybe it blows up in our face and it doesn't work, but honestly, the sales implosion that we were told is coming from Elon's tweets never came, right? The sales actually went up. in spite of very high interest rates and some economic headwinds. Maybe you can say, okay, he lost some sales here or there, but he probably gained some sales. So, you know, anyway, my point is I'm buying Tesla and it would be nice if maybe Elon wasn't causing so much controversy, but ultimately I trust that maybe he has a plan. There's often things that I think we don't see. Like when he sent that tweet about his compensation plan, we could have put two and two together if we had been looking at all these cases and stuff. They're all on the public docket, but we just didn't see that. And it then became clear after the fact. So, you know, I've done made a lot of returns trusting him before, and I'm going to continue to trust him now, even though success isn't certain. And honestly, there's people ganging up on him and Tesla from every corner, whether it's the government, whether it's shareholders, people are coming after the board to try and take control away from him. We need some people who just back what he's doing at this time more than ever. Tesla's very secure financially, but the future of Tesla being led the way that we expect it to is under threat because there are these people who want to get rid of Elon. They want to fire him because they're shitty traders, really. So, anyway, that's my rant.